The Mariners were supposed to finally be good now. What has happened to this team? Last year, the Seattle Mariners broke the longest playoff drought in major American sports, finishing with a record of 90-72, second in the AL West and taking the second wildcard spot. They would beat the Toronto Blue Jays in 2 games in the wildcard round, then go on to get swept by the Houston Astros in the ALDS. This team finally looked like they were ready to really compete again, and during the offseason, we saw Adam Frazier leave in free agency, Jesse Winker and Eric Swanson were traded away, and Teoscar Hernandez and Kolten Wong were brought back in those trades. But this year has not started how they would have hoped, with the Mariners starting 2023 going 31-33, sitting in 4th place in this dogfight of an AL West. So with most of this team coming back and an offseason of making moves to try to address their needs, how is it that the Mariners look like they've taken a big step back this year? Well, I kind of already brought up the big offseason moves that this team made, but did these moves actually address the Mariners' weaknesses? Going into this offseason, the Mariners knew that they needed to get another outfielder, with both Winker and Mitch Haniger leaving, and their young options in Jared Kelenic and Taylor Trammell hadn't really established themselves yet, so they went out and made a trade with Toronto to bring in Teoscar Hernandez. Now, Winker had put up a 108 WRC plus last season, mostly coming from his on-base percentage due to a 15.4% walk rate, but he was a far cry from his Cincinnati days. And Haniger was a pretty solid power bat, putting up a 429 slugging percentage and 113 WRC plus, but he only played in 57 games last year because of injuries. Now, Hernandez was supposed to come in at least for this season before he hits free agency this offseason and hold down this right field spot and be a really solid bat for the Mariners, but he has had a rough start so far. Hernandez has really struggled with his approach at the plate, walking only 4.6% of the time and striking out 32.7% of the time. Both of these big reasons why so far he only has a 95 WRC plus. So right now it's been back-to-back years that the Mariners have made a trade to get a big hitting outfielder, only for them to completely underperform. And I mean, he didn't hit like he was supposed to, but at least Winker went out there and tried to fight the entire Angels team and completely sparked their turnaround of the season. You know what you have to do. Adam Frazier was supposed to continue hitting once he got to Seattle, but only managed a 238 average, 301 on base, and 81 WRC plus last year, so Seattle let him walk and made a trade with the Brewers to get Kolten Wong to fill this role at second base, and Jesus, has it been bad so far. Wong has a 424 OPS and 29 WRC plus, and at this point has pretty much been replaced by rookie Jose Caballero, who has a 396 on base percentage from a 14.4% walk rate and a 128 WRC plus. So right now, neither of their big offseason additions have really worked out all that much so far. Just thank God for Jose Caballero and his pitch clock shenanigans. But what about the guys that were on this team last year and were big parts to their success? Well, Ty France and JP Crawford have been about what you'd expect from them so far, with France hitting 271 with 5 bombs, not really striking out a lot, but definitely not walking all that much either, and Crawford mainly has just been getting on base with a 351 on base percentage and a 13.2% walk rate. But a couple of their sluggers haven't really been able to find their power quite yet, with Eugenio Suarez's slugging percentage down to 323 right now and his WRC plus at 88, and the big dumper himself is down to a 406 slugging and 99 WRC plus. Now the bright spot in this lineup though has been Jared Kelenic finally coming into his own and taking a huge step forward so far. Still struggling with the strikeouts, but now he's hitting 268, 331, 500 for an 831 OPS, 11 home runs, and a 132 WRC plus. But the biggest star on this team, Julio Rodriguez, who broke out last year with 28 home runs, an 854 OPS, and 146 WRC plus, is off to a real slow start here in 2023. Julio has been a pretty free swinger, and the book is out on him at this point that you can get him to chase pretty easy. and we've seen him striking out more, walking less, and he's down to slashing 250, 310, 448. Now he does have 12 home runs and a 115 WRC plus right now, which is good, don't get me wrong, but he was expected to be the main piece in this lineup, and those numbers aren't quite that. Now last season, the Mariners were pretty fortunate that they got a really durable and consistent season from the rotation, and unfortunately, that hasn't been the case this year since literally the second day of the season. The Mariners got 32 starts and 189 innings out of Robbie Ray last year, and even though he wasn't quite his Cy Young version with a 3.71 ERA and a 4.17 FIP, that's better than him being done for the season after 3 1/3 innings. Now Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, and George Kirby are all pitching pretty well like they did last season, and you still got Marco Gonzalez at the back end of this rotation just bulldogging his way through ball games. But with Robbie Ray out, this season the Mariners have had to rely on the farm system to try to fill some of these gaps. The first prospect that they brought up was Bryce Miller, who started off absolutely electric, but has had some rough outings recently, and overall has a 4.46 ERA and a 3.12 FIP in 7 starts. Now more recently, with Marco Gonzalez getting hurt, they've given Brian Wu his shot in the majors, but in 2 starts so far, he has a 10.8 ERA despite a 2.82 FIP, because he's getting his strikeouts, but God, has he been getting knocked around so far. And now, as good as Seattle's rotation has been over the last couple of years, arguably, their bullpen has been an even bigger weapon for them. Now, in the trade to get Teoscar Hernandez from the Blue Jays, the Mariners sent over Eric Swanson, who had put up a 1.74 ERA and 1.84 FIP in 51 2/3 innings last season. And on top of this, Andres Munoz, who had a 2.49 ERA and a 2.04 FIP in 65 innings last year, has only been in 6 games so far, spending most of the beginning of this season hurt. Now, Paul Sewald has still been closing out games, and Penn Murphy's still been really good as that first guy out of the pen, but this bullpen overall just hasn't quite had that same top-level depth that they've had over the last couple of years. So the Mariners have started 2023 here with the lineup taking a step back, both the new guys and some key returners. The rotation hasn't quite been as durable, and then they've had to rely on some rookies because of this. And then you have the bullpen, who's still been pretty solid, even with a lot of new names in there. So if the Mariners are gonna kick off another run to a playoff spot here, they need these bigger bats in the lineup to start to wake up a bit. They're gonna have to really rely on the rookies to hold their own here in the rotation. The bullpen's gotta keep doing its thing here, and Colton Wong needs to start a fully sanctioned MMA fight in the middle of this next series before we run out of time. But do you think the Mariners can turn this around and make another playoff spot? Or am I looking at even more disappointment after my entire baseball life being watching these guys suck? Comment your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think about all this. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to check out the next one here on Luis Arias chasing the 400 batting average, which hasn't been done since 1941. You can check that out right here. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the page to help the channel grow and so you can see more baseball content like this every Wednesday and Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. I'm out of here.